Wednesday night's debate is going to be crucial for both campaigns. Let's bring in veteran political strategist, former DNC senior advisor Steve McMahon, and former Cruz campaign spokesman Rick Tyler. Guys, good morning to you both.
Hey, Carl.
Heck of a week ahead of us. Rick, again this morning, Trump, 8:30 a.m. Of course, there's large-scale voter fraud happening on and before Election Day. How does one even begin to refute that?
Well, you can look at the studies. I mean, you really have to focus on a single district or area or city in one particular swing state, because polling or elections are conducted by election officials on a local level, and so there's thousands of them. So you'd have to have a conspiracy on a mass scale if he was going to lose all the states that he's losing now. But look, it doesn't really help his message. If you say that the election is not legitimate, how is that supposed to encourage your supporters to go out for you? I mean, why would Donald Trump supporters participate in a rigged election? Moreover, Donald Trump won the Republican nomination, presumably by the same rigged election. And the last thing is you need to know is that, winners don't try to undermine the outcome of elections.
Steve, I assume it's meant to maximize the base's output by trying to make up for the deficiencies they're facing in fraud, right? Along with minimizing any turnout from swings.
That's only because you're a rational human being, Carl. I mean, what's been going on here for some time is that Donald Trump has been losing the election, and now he appears to be losing his mind. He's imagining conspiracies that don't exist. The entire world is now apparently out to get him, in addition to the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and the mainstream media. And what I really think is going on here, frankly, is he's trying to divide the Republican Party because he sees an audience for his message of hate and bigotry that might actually find its way onto a cable channel at some point, perhaps a Breitbart-owned or a Trump-owned cable channel. That was a leak that actually came out this morning in Playbook, that Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, is actually in talks right now about forming a Trump network or a Breitbart network that will take his base to a cable channel. And remember, Roger Ailes has left Fox News, so he's floating around out there in the Trump universe. I think what's going on here is he's no longer trying to win the election. He's trying to divide the party and create an audience for what comes next, which is going to be an angry, vitriolic, Trump-branded network. Watch.
Rick, a lot of people have been speculating about that, and it was interesting to see that report this morning. Where does that leave the Republican Party after Donald Trump, their chances, and whether they can even stay together?
Well, I think Steve's absolutely right. I think they are looking at post-election. I think they realize they're not going to win this. Donald Trump will go into this debate trying to defend his reputation. He'll actually do worse damage in this third debate than he's already done. But everything points toward what the leak points to, which is a third-party network. I also think that, look, the Republican Party right now is splitting as we speak. After the election, it'll essentially be three factions. It'll be the establishment faction, which is well-funded, has lots of leaders. It's the faction everybody's mad at, which is why we ended up with Donald Trump. You'll have the Breitbart wing, which is the wing that's surrounding Donald Trump, which I think will try to be a force after the election. They have very media-savvy people around them. They'll have money and they'll have organization. And then finally, you have what I'd like to think is an intellectual conservatism, which currently has no leader and no message and no organization. So that we're just going to have a brawl.
Steve, let's talk a bit about the Senate and Congress. I mean, there seems to be some hope amongst Democrats that, well, even that Congress could be in play. That seems unlikely. I'm just curious to get your take, though, in terms of the Senate, what your expectations may be, and if there really will be an impact down the ballot if people don't show up in sufficient numbers to vote for Mr. Trump.
Well, I mean, there has to be an impact down the ballot if people don't show up. Look what's going on right now. Donald Trump is lighting his political party on fire. And if you're an establishment Republican, if you're a principled conservative, as Rick is, you don't really have any reason to go out and vote for Donald Trump. And it can't help but having an impact or have an impact on Senate races, which I think you're seeing people who shouldn't be really in danger because they're from red states, people like Richard Burr, for instance, who are having a very difficult time. In Missouri, Senator Blunt's having a tough time. Those are races that Republicans should be able to count on, and they're in jeopardy. And then you see all the states that were in play are still in play, and now a number of new House seats every week are coming into play. And I think the Republicans have to be nervous about their majority, not just in the Senate, but in the House.
Finally, Rick, as far as the Clinton campaign goes, do you try to expand the map to Arizona and Georgia and Iowa, or do you try to solidify those states you think you really will win?
Well, from everything I read, they are looking at those areas, and they're trying to do it in a way where they don't have to spend resources there. They're doing a lot of smartly local television in Georgia and in Arizona. I think McCain was on Arizona from New York yesterday. Did I say McCain? I meant Kane. And so, look, we started with somewhere around 5 or 6 swing states. It's expanded now to 13, and she's winning in places like Arizona, like she's closer in Indiana than she should be. She's closer in Georgia than she should be. She's even closer in Texas, way more than she should be. So she's got a great advantage. I mean, if you look at the electoral map, Donald Trump would have to really run the table. He'd have to win. He's going to have to win Florida. He's going to have to win North Carolina. He's going to have to win Ohio. And if he loses any one of those in the first hour on election night, then the race is over.
Yeah, more than 1 million people, it's estimated, have already voted, too. We haven't really talked about that. Steve, Rick, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Steve
Rick.
McMahon, Rick Tyler.